Hey guys, I just picked up this 2003 Dodge 1500. It's got a 4.7 liter in it, but it has no oil pressure. I'm gonna see if I can fix it. I'm Kevin, this is Ridge Runner Garage. I just picked up this 03 Dodge Ram 1500 with, really one of the more crappy engines Chrysler really ever had. It's got all kinds of problems. You overheat it, drops valve seats and all kinds of stuff. But it's really clean, 2-wheel drive. Now, the person I bought this from, he had a shop verify that it didn't have oil pressure. They used a mechanical gauge, and yeah, sure enough, you can tell by the sounds of it, the motor's not knocking, but it's clattering like the upper ends, starving for oil. And here, check this out. Oil pressure. That's it. It really doesn't move at all. Oh, look, check gauges. No wonder. I'm going to do a couple things and let's see what kind of results we got. The first thing I'm going to do is change the oil filter. It's probably not going to fix it. I have a pretty good idea what's actually wrong with this, but I will get to that a little later. So first things first, let's change the oil filter, see what happens. So we have the old filter off. I screwed a new filter on. Let's see what this does. Now, I don't really think this is gonna fix it, but I have seen some oil filters do some weird things over the years, between making noises and causing all kinds of oil pressure issues. So I guess you just never know. Let's see what happens. Doesn't look like it did anything. All right, so check this out. I'm gonna pull the oil pan off this and see what we've got. How do you like this piece? It actually unbolts, which is great. You can actually slide, it'll give you room. Do you really need to take it off? I don't know, I always do. The pan's sitting way up there. This is 2-wheel drive. I'll be able to get the pan out, no problem. Seems how I can't hold tools and hold the camera at the same time. Just bear with me. I'll be back when I get the pan off. Have you ever taken one of these pans off here on a 4.7? The pan gasket is bolted to the block, so you have to make sure you separate the pan from the gasket and then unbolt the gasket. The gasket's actually the windage tray, if you will. It's a pain, but just so you know, if you're not prying down, there's been a few times I've forgotten this. Anyway, pry the pan away from the gasket. Well, this is a pain, but like I said, the gasket has to be separated from the pan because the gasket's actually bolted to the block. It'll take a little bit of work, but this is how it's got to be. Looks like we're getting it finally. Definitely not going to be saving this gasket. Try to get you a better look at that oil pickup. Plugged up, solid. Let me see if I can get it cleaned out. I'll get a pan gasket for this and we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed. Or we'll put a motor in it. All right, so the pan's on, the pickup's back in, all that stuff's together. It's filled back up with 6 quarts of freshly squeezed dinosaur. See what happens. All right. Fingers crossed. Anything? Nothing. So the results are that nobody ever changed the oil in this thing, and that's why it has low oil pressure. Yeah. Well, I'm going to pull the motor out of this. I'm going to pull the crank out of it, and because it's the condition that it's in, clean it up the best I can. I think I should have probably good cylinder heads to work with. I won't bore you with pulling the motor. I will get this out and be back with you when I got a good look at the crank. Finally got the motor out of that truck. Really wasn't a big deal. 4 or 5 hours. I've got it all torn down for the most part anyways. I'm getting ready to take the rods and pistons out, and this intermediate plate holds all the bearing caps in place. We're going to find out what kind of damage this motor has in it, and hopefully, again, maybe we can fix it, maybe we can't. Either way, I'm going to try. All apart. Check this bearing out. Where is it? Check out that right there. That, it's not spun, but boy, it sure looks like it's close to it. The crank journal seems okay right there though. So I've got a lot to clean up. The block, the heads, the pistons are in decent shape, the rod bearings and stuff like that. There doesn't seem to be an issue there. Pretty much main bearings are burned out of it. I'm gonna throw a new pump and stuff in it. The pickup and everything's cleaned up, and I should be able to save this motor. Let me get the crank over to the machine shop, see what they say. Hopefully it should be good. I don't really see anything but a very, very light little mark. This is the journal that bearing was on. I mean, I can kind of feel it with my finger, so maybe, I don't know. All right, well, I got the crank back. I had no trouble polishing it. And if you're in South Carolina area, Simmons Machine Shop, they had this crank polished in literally less than 24 hours. I was out of town for a few days, so I didn't have time to pick it up, but awesome machine shop, really nice people, love their work. So here's what where we're at so far. I already plastic gauged this, and here's the crank over here. I've got about 15 to 20 thousandths clearance. I think that should be okay. I don't know. It looks like you want about 20 to 25, but unless I want to get the crank turned. So we're gonna throw it together, see what happens. Some of you guys that are out there probably know better and are cringing right now, but I don't know any better. So, but I mean, most of the time at a dealership, I take a motor apart and I put it back together. I don't have to plastic gauge anything, and if it's going back together, it's all factory parts. So I don't really have a problem having to look at any of this stuff. So, not a machinist. It's close to 20 thousandths. I can see that it's a little, you know, the plastic gauge is a little bigger, so, you know, maybe it's closer to 15. I guess we'll see. So I'm going to get the silicone out and silicone this bed plate together, put this all back together, put a bunch of oil on the bearings, and hopefully this will work out pretty good. This, believe it or not, this engine block actually fit in the parts washer at work. You can see how nice the heads were. I don't know if I got a good picture of how black and dirty the inside of that motor was, but man, you saw it from the bottom just a few minutes ago at the bottom of the pickup. The whole motor looked like that on the inside. So, man, that's what happens when you don't change the oil. I don't know. We're gonna throw it together and see what kind of oil pressure we got. Got it almost all back together. It is literally taken all day, but it's in, it's timed. Crank rods, bearings, all that stuff. Had to run around, get different stuff. And that's it. Put the timing cover on this water pump and throw it in. I'll do that tomorrow. Wish me luck. Got the motor all together, and as you see, not everything's hooked up. The only reason the radiator's in here is just for the oil, the transmission cooler line, so they don't spray all over the place. I hooked up minimal just to get it to run. Fingers crossed. Keys in my hand. You know why I don't hook everything up? I'm actually a little superstitious about it. If you hook everything up, it seems like you're going to end up taking it back apart. So this is legit the very first time I'm trying this. I just hooked the battery up. I don't even know if it's got enough charge in it. All right. Keys in it. And it's not starting. I don't know. I got some digging to do. But I'll be right back. It'll only be a second to you, but it'll probably be a couple days for me. And we'll figure out if we can get this thing running. Thought that didn't sound right, turning over. Went and looked back at the video. It's not timed right. Well, I did exactly what I thought I did. You'll see the balancers lined up. The left side sprocket is level. They need to be 90 degrees to the ground, if you will, or 90 degrees to the China rail. But these two holes right here should be level right now, and they're not. All right, so yeah, those two rivets are supposed to be level with like the China rail or the pan, not at the angle that they're at. You know, I've been a mechanic my whole life, and this happens every now and then. There's been a few times that, you know, Subarus especially, that I've done this to, and had the valves in them. So hopefully these valves didn't hit the pistons on this side. It looks to be about 45 degrees retarded, like the person that timed it. And if I did my math correctly, those pistons should not have made contact with those valves. I don't know what math that would be. I have no idea. Anyway, I'm going to retime this, put the valve covers back on, and slide the radiator in so I don't make a mess of the transmission lines, and you guys cross your fingers. Okay, look at this. Timed. Well, you can see that is level. It doesn't look like it in the camera. That's level there. So one thing, if you're ever timing one of these 4.7s, or you're taking a cylinder head off or anything like that, it doesn't matter where the chain is down here. You will be able to have enough slack in the tensioner to put the sprocket back on without taking this all apart and relieving the tensioner. And yes, that is a pair of vice grips on the camshaft. Never had a problem. Yep, vice grips. That'll do it. All right. Well, let's try to start this up for the first time. The second time. See if it runs. And will it have oil pressure if it does? Probably ought to hook up the battery. try that. I'm admittingly a little nervous. Well, it runs. Oil pressure, oil. Look at that! There's oil pressure! Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Still sounds like shit, but it'll probably clean up. A little tick to it, but it's going away. Oh yeah! Alright, let me shut it off because there's no coolant or anything in it. Let me hook all the stuff up. Hopefully the tick goes away. Well, that doesn't sound good. Well, what do you think? It's got a couple weird noises. It runs great. It drives awesome. I mean, it drives perfect, but there's a couple weird noises. Thinking wrist pins, maybe. Hopefully the lifters. I took it for a ride around the block. It seems better. So unless something awkward or weird happens, I don't have to pull it back apart. Maybe it'll clean up. This thing was, again, just horrendous inside. Not necessarily the last owner, he didn't have it for very long at all, but the guy, whoever had it before him, just, you know, didn't take care of it. So hopefully it cleans up. I'm definitely going to be happy to move it on down the road and get on to another more cooler, older project. This phantom knocking noise is still here in this thing. I really kind of think I had it narrowed down to cylinder 1. Yeah, not good. The noise isn't getting any better. It's not getting any worse. I pulled the valve cover through a couple lifters in cylinder 1, thinking that might be the problem. Didn't solve any problems at all. Just pulled the pan back off it and checked each individual rod. Actually was looking for a loose wrist pin. Pulled each rod cap, pushed the piston up. It's really hard to do that, to find a loose wrist pin. It'd probably have to be really, really, really loose. Didn't find anything, so, but there was a lot of trash that ran through the bearings, a little bit shiny in the oil pan. It's probably going to be fine. I'm not really too worried about that, but it still has a phantom noise. So, the answer to the question, it's got oil pressure, but can I save it? Nope. Nope. I think from here on out, we're going to use motor in this thing, send it on down the road. That way I can get back to building hot rods and rat rods, what I prefer doing anyways. I got some new projects I'm anxious to show you guys. If you liked me messing with this thing and you want to see some more of this stuff, hey, comment below. I do read this stuff, and you know, I can do this if you guys like to see it more than rat rods. Somehow I bet you probably like to see me build more hot rods and rat rod stuff. So that being said, subscribe to the channel. I do appreciate all of that. Click like if you liked it. And again, thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Lack of oil changes ruined that one. You're going to learn anything from this, change your oil. You know, save the next guy.